So now Biden has come out and said, wait for it, that he doesn't support getting rid of the filibuster. This is outrageous. You can't even get your own party in line, and now you're going to say you're not going to undo the filibuster? They're going to stop everything you try to do unless we get rid of the filibuster. I think that we can say that without equivocation. So I wanted to play a clip really quickly of the press secretary talking about this on MSNBC.
Well, joining us now, we can talk about this issue with White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki. Jen, it's great to have you on the show.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Good morning. Great to see you. Let's start with the filibuster. We know the president wants to keep it intact. Does that mean for all legislation? Is there any possibility for some exceptions?
Well, look, as you know, Mika and Joe, he was in the Senate for 36 years, and his preference, as you said, is not to make changes to the filibuster, and he wants to leave the door open to bipartisan work. And people may say that's naive, or they may be frustrated, but he feels he's only 40 days into his administration, and he wants that door to be open so that Republicans and Democrats can work together on legislation moving forward.
So, Jen, how important is this voting rights bill? That is probably going to be up next in the House and the Senate. How important is it that Democrats figure out a way to stop Republicans from doing what they're doing in Georgia, what they're doing in Iowa, doing what they're doing across state legislatures across America, where they want to make it harder for Americans to vote?
You're absolutely right, Joe, and it's outrageous, and I loved what I'm going to steal what Casey said, and they said the quiet part out loud, and it shouldn't be harder for people to vote. And if people have the best ideas, they should want more people to vote. That's something the president absolutely believes. You talked about the legislation, of course, that's working its way through Congress. What we're seeing out there is Democrats are trying to figure out a path forward. They want this legislation to pass. The president wants this legislation to pass. And most importantly, making sure more people have access to voting, to be able to vote, and making it easier is something that's a core value for the president for his presidency. So he'll push for this, and he's going to keep looking for ways to get that done over the course of the next coming couple months.
Hey, Jen, it's Willie. Good to see you this morning. We know that the president has reached out to Republicans, both publicly and privately, to get this legislation passed. It looks like at the end of the day, he won't get a single one of them to vote in either the Senate or the House for its passage. So what did you learn, and what did the White House, what did the president learn?
Pause this. He reached out to the Republicans, but he couldn't get his own party folks in line. He couldn't call the Delaware senators and get them in line. I mean, I don't know what they're trying to sell here. This is outrageous. Carry on.
About what Washington is going to look like for the next 3.5, 4 years if you can't get Republicans on board for a bill that is this publicly popular.
Well, I think we've all learned that Republicans living in this zip code are outliers to where the American people are. And I know you talked about this a little bit earlier in the show. Some people who are Republicans can explain that more to the rest of us. But the majority of the country supports this bill. The majority of Republicans across the country support this bill and package. And I think this is really going to require a moment of self-reflection for Republicans who aren't supporting getting checks to almost 160 million Americans, money to reopen schools, money to vaccinate people. Since when is that a Democratic idea? It's an idea that most Americans support, and maybe they need to look a little bit inside about why they're opposed to it.
The progressives, and I'm sure you're hearing from a lot of them, including many in the Senate, would tell you this very process tells you why you need to get rid of the filibuster. There's no way you're going to get 60 votes on anything. You just have to go on a straight majority for the rest of the president's presidency. What do you say to those progressives? What do you say to people like Bernie Sanders?
Wait for it.
Well, first, Bernie Sanders called this one of the most sweeping pieces of legislation in modern American history. I'm paraphrasing a little bit there, but some version of that. And this is a bill that was supported by not just him, but also Senator Joe Manchin. So Democrats really stuck together on this. I will say, Willie, that there's a lot of lessons a lot of us who've worked in government and even in the White House before, including the president, have learned. He didn't sit around and wait for negotiations to continue for months. He supported using the reconciliation process to get this bill through and get it passed. That does mean it looks to be headed on a...
This is outrageous that she's claiming this right now, because that's absolutely not true. If he had supported the reconciliation process, we wouldn't be in the place we are now. We would have a $15 minimum wage. This is outrageous. Instead, he let the parliamentarian control everything, someone that is just an advisor that has no power. And meanwhile, he couldn't get these 8 senators to back his proposal 2 of which are from Delaware, his home state. I mean, I don't understand how she goes on MSNBC and makes these claims with a straight face. Carry on.
Party line vote, but he wasn't going to play games and wait for relief to get to the American people. So that is a way that it moved forward. It passed, but we're going to keep the door open moving forward, Willie, because look, there are things like infrastructure investment. Traditionally, historically, there's been bipartisan support for that. Everybody wants to rebuild roads, railways, and bridges.
There's bipartisan support for
there's
the $15
been historic
minimum
support
wage.
for modernizing our immigration system, and he wants to talk to Republicans and Democrats about getting those things done.
This is just a remarkable thing to me. For him to now say that he doesn't support ending the filibuster because of these reasons it's just ridiculous. I think we can all see through this, right, for what it is. So, wow. But here's what the reality is, in my opinion. Biden doesn't want to get rid of the filibuster because he doesn't actually want these policies. If he did want these policies, we would have them. They're popular. He would be able to get all of these other guys in line. In the very least, he could have gone back to Manchin and said, okay, you won't support 15. You're saying you support 11. Let's do 12 or 13 and split the difference. But again, once again, he's chosen not to do any of these things. So my point is I don't believe the actual will is there. I think they're giving lip service to the voters because they know these policies are popular. And that's where it ends. So if we don't end the filibuster, we're in trouble because this particular bill, because it was budget reconciliation, was filibuster proof, meaning that we only needed a majority to pass it, right? Going forward, that's not going to be the case. And we don't have 60 votes. We couldn't get the 50, so we don't have the 60. Minimum wage as a standalone bill will absolutely be filibustered and it will die. It's not going to happen. So Jen Psaki getting on MSNBC and saying these things is just absolutely outrageous.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.